What's up, my friends? Travis Peters here with another lesson from the Increased Life. Today we're going to be talking about, well, we're going to be talking about money. Yeah, but I've had some new revelation on stewardship that I want to share with you guys today and how to be a better steward and what that actually looks like. Because I think if we don't consciously, intentionally, purposefully go in and say, what does it mean to be a good steward? Our default programming says a good steward is one who uses the envelope system and puts every dollar in its place and spends as little as possible and doesn't go out to eat very often and says no to most things when it comes to spending money. They clip coupons and they stretch every dollar and pinch every penny. And it's like, it doesn't say that in here anywhere. So why do we think that's what you do? And then when we don't live as I just described, we feel guilty. And maybe our bank account is low. And it's our fault and we've messed up because we ate out too many times. And because of that, God won't bless us with more. So we have to kind of sit in our own punishment. One, that's, again, the book doesn't say that. Two, that's not God's nature with anything. Why would it be in the area of money? That's not how he works. That's not how he operates. That's not his way of loving us. If we think that, it proves we don't actually know him. We don't know his nature. We haven't been in this book. We haven't spent time with him because all of those things I just said are incorrect. Let's talk about this. When there's just a couple, man, there's just some great. Let me pull my notes out. When we look at ourselves, here's really what I want you to do. I want you to see yourself as a steward. So a steward is a manager, someone who oversees the affairs, the assets, and the finances of somebody else. All right? It's just someone who's like, hey, I'm down here on earth. God is supplying me with money. I'm going to take care of his stuff. I'm going to do the stuff with his money, assets, time, his things that he's given me. I'm going to use them well, and I'm going to increase what he's given me. If you've been around my channel any length of time, excuse me, I apologize. If you're new to the channel, I got a free gift for you. I didn't mention this earlier. If you head over to financialincrease101.com, link is also in the description. If you head over there, I've got a free gift for you. It's a guide I put together that's going to show you how to start activating God's promise for increase so you can escape the budgeted life. Make sure you download that. It's going to help you. It's going to bless you. It's going to start turning things around for you very, very, very quickly. I'm not even going to show you how to budget your life away and cut all your expenses. No, I teach you how to live the increased life now and later. It's pretty cool. It's helped over, I guess I don't really know, probably over 10,000 Christians at this point. So let's get back to the lesson though. When you see yourself as a steward, get this. This is what I want to get across to you guys. God's your source of money. He gives it to you through a job, through a business idea, through a sale, through sometimes a check in the mail. We don't count on checks in the mail, but those do happen, blessings in that way. But most of the time, he's going to get money to you through a job, through an idea, through an opportunity, through a gig, through a sale, through a commission, something like that, typically, all right? So as stewards, we need to know how to handle his money and what to do with it. Again, we have a preconceived notion that good stewards spend as little as possible. They buy the cheap stuff. They save the money, blah, 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 blah. But if you've been on this channel any length of time, you've seen my other lessons on stewardship, my other lessons on prosperity, my other lessons on financial increase. We know that in Matthew 25:14, where it talks about the parable of the talents, he teaches us what a good steward actually does. A good steward increases that which God gives him. A bad steward hides it out of fear of losing it. Remember he gave 5 talents to one, 2 talents to another person, and 1 talent to the last guy? The guy who hid the master's money out of fear of losing it. That's exactly how this words it, how the Bible words it. That guy was called wicked and lazy. They took that money from him, gave him to the best steward, the one who increased it the most, the 5 talent guy, and then kicked this dude out and called him wicked, lazy, and slothful. All right? But a lot of Christians, they want to be 5 talent people, but they're living like 1 talent people. They want to be 5 talent people. God, you can trust me with more, but they're doing the actions of the 1 talent person. I'm trying to get you out of that. All right? That doesn't get you anywhere. Now, a steward knows they're not the source of their own money, right? The reason tithing is hard for people, the reason people argue it, they come on my channel and they argue with me and they say like, oh, you don't have to tithe today. And I'm like, I never said you had to tithe. I never said you were required to tithe. I said, if you want these blessings, you need to tithe. Go check out my tithing series just a few weeks back. It's going to bless you. It's going to open your eyes to some cool stuff, show you how to start living that increased life. But the reason they have problems with it is because they're actually fearful and they believe that they are the source of their own prosperity. So it's easy for me to tithe. It's easy for you to tithe when you realize that God gave you the money versus your own sweat. I worked hard for this. I earned this money. God doesn't need my money. I need it more than he does. Plus, I just put in 60-hour weeks for that. Okay, you're looking at it wrong. I get what you're saying, but you got the wrong perspective. You're putting everything back in your own efforts, back in your own strength. You're making yourself your own source. See, when you see that God is the steward, like I've done things like this. I've walked away from big commission checks because I knew I needed to get out of that job. Had I stayed a few months more, I would have made like $15,000 on this one deal. And it would have been a great time for that money. Like I could have very, very well used it, but I knew I was supposed to get out of there. Didn't bother me one bit. No regrets. Never thought about it once. Because God's my source. He can give me another $15,000. And he has. Many times over since, right? God is the one who flows that stuff into my life. It's not me who works super hard for it and I earn it and I deserve it. No, I'm obedient. I'm willing and obedient. Remember Isaiah 1:19? Those who are willing and obedient will eat the best of the land. God is my source. God is my supply. I listen to him. I work on assignment and he brings the increase. That's how this whole thing flows. That's how this whole thing works. And as a steward, that's easy. See, if I'm a steward, tithing's easy because I'm giving my master's money. The first encounter with the tithe was Abraham giving to Melchizedek. And this is way before the law. So don't say tithing's under the law. It was 400 something years before the law was even given. So y'all get it straight. But what he did was the same heart that we need to have when we tithe and when we give. Also as a steward. God gave him the victory of these battles. And the spoils, right? All the gold, the silver, the cattle, all the stuff from these battles. Abraham was like, God gave this to me. Thank you, Lord, for this win. Thank you for this victory. Thank you for delivering the enemy into my hands and giving us this blessing, this victory. Thank you, Lord. You know what? I'm going to give you back 10% of all the spoils. Who can I give this to? Who's the high priest right now? Melchizedek. Oh, I'm going to go bless him. I'm going to go give back this. I'm going to go give him this 10% of everything that God gave me. It was a heart thing. It was like a, God, thank you. I'm so thankful for this. Here's 10%. When you think about it, 10% is kind of low when you look at it that way. But I mean, my first job ever was at a pizza place when I'm 16, and I was thankful for it. God, thank you for getting me this job. Man, I'm going to tithe 10% now and forever. You hooked me up with this job. Thank you. Man, without this job, I'd be struggling. It might be a little tough right now. Thank you, Lord, for this job. It didn't pay much. It wasn't like, oh, it pays a lot so I can afford to tithe. No, it was minimum wage. Still tithe. Thank you, Lord. I appreciate that. And I've kept that heart attitude as I've advanced and grown throughout the years. It's why I've advanced and grown, is because I've continued to have that attitude. God, thank you for this. Thank you for this. Here. Back in the day, writing the check. First is giving cash, then writing checks, and then putting the debit card, and then texting it in, and then going online, It's like, God, just thank you. If we can get that, I'm a steward. It's not like, oh, I can't afford to tithe. You mean you can't afford to tithe? It's not your money. God gave you that job, that opportunity. No, Travis, I worked hard. I went to college. I did all these things. I got student loans. And then now I got this job because I worked hard. If that's your perspective, you're going to struggle. If that's what you think, it's why you're where you're at. It's why you're still stuck. It's why you're watching this video searching for answers. Because you see yourself as the source. Who do you think helped you get those good grades? Who do you think led you down that path? Well, assuming you followed his instructions, led you down that path, got you that job. There was divine favor and connections flowing all throughout that whole ordeal that you didn't even give God credit for because it didn't look supernatural. See, there's these things in our lives that feel like we did it, but it was God that was behind it. And when you recognize that and give him the credit and give him the glory, that's when you can see yourself as a steward. It's like, oh yeah, it wasn't me, it was God. Lord, thank you. I'll gladly tithe for the rest of my life. And I'll give above and beyond that too. Man, they're running a project at your church. Man, let's fund that thing. I can't afford it. Can't afford not to, really. Like, let's get out of that mindset of I can't afford it. And instead of doing that, let's just ask God when we have an opportunity to give, Lord, what is my part to play in this offering? What is my part to play in blessing this person or sowing this seed? What do you want me to do here? I'm a steward. I'm a manage your stuff. I manage your money. What do I do here? Instead, most Christians are living like, I can't do that. Can't go to that event. Can't buy that ticket. Can't do that thing. I ain't got the money. I wish I did. Man, God, I wish I had that money. And he's just up there like, hey, ask me. Ask me. There was an event that we did at our church recently, and we had a famous guest speaker come in, and you could upgrade. You could buy $1,000 tickets for I think $50 to the public, but for the inside, you could buy a $1,000 ticket and get a VIP experience, meet and greet with the person, signed books, like all these cool stuff, right? It's awesome, and it's just a way to kind of help the core of the church will help pay for this event, right? It costs a lot of money to put these things on, and so a whole bunch of us are like, yep, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's go. $1,000. Well, I remember this. I remembered years and years and years ago, we had another event, and it was the same thing. You could upgrade to a VIP experience for $1,000. It's probably 10 years ago. And I remember I had the money in our savings, but I didn't really want to. Basically, I just felt like I needed to ask God for a new $1,000. Ask him for a new $1,000, okay? And I put there's a little envelope where you put your money in and you turn that in to get your VIP experience. Well, I grabbed an envelope, I wrote down $1,000 and I put it on my bookshelf. So when I'm like praying and kind of pacing around in the morning, I could see it. It was eye level on my bookshelf. And I was just like, God, I ask you right now for an extra $1,000. And when it comes in, I'm going to go and I'm going to upgrade to the VIP experience. I'm going to sow this seed into this project that you are doing. And God, I ask you for it, and I thank you for it now. So every time I'd see it, as I'm praying every single day, God, I thank you for my new $1,000. God, I thank you for my new $1,000. And it's about, I want to say maybe 10 days later, I got a check in the mail, and it was for $1,100. We had refinanced our home, and there was a mistake, and we had overpaid, or they did the math wrong. It was something like that. They made a mistake, and they were crediting back to us $1,100. So got that money and a little bit extra, right? Went and upgraded, sowed that seed into my church. Boom. Let's go. So in this recent event, I remembered that older event, and I did the same thing. I was like, all right, God, I want a new $1,000 to cover this. Yes, I had the money in my account, but I wanted a new $1,000. So I asked him for it. And the next day this time, there's no timeline on how fast or slow it's going to go. I just know it's going to work. The next day, basically somebody found one of my old online courses, one of my old products. It's not old, I'm just not currently promoting it. I don't know how they found it. I haven't talked about it in months, but it's a $1,000 coaching program, and they found it and they bought it. So I was immediately, basically the very next day, so it felt immediate. I went and I bought the upgraded VIP experience. And I was telling some of my friends about this, and they were just like, I never even thought to ask God for that. I don't even think like that. I need that reminder. And I'm like, yeah, I'm a steward. So a steward goes and puts in a request for the money that they require, that they need, money that they want. As a steward, I went and put in that request. Hey, Lord, I'd like a new $1,000. I'm going to upgrade to the VIP experience, VIP package. I'm going to bless my church. I'm going to bless my pastor. We're going to get the speaker paid for. We're going to get this thing. It's going to be awesome. We're going to help some people. It adds, one, it was fun for me to do the VIP thing, but then two, like I said, it was open to the public. It was an event open to the public, so this helped pay for it. It puts me as, I'm not just a consumer anymore. I'm now a producer. I'm not just a person who goes to the party. I now host the party. I'm on this side of things when it comes to my church and events and outreach and community and stuff like that. And y'all can think, this is how our steward thinks. I need an extra $1,000. God, I want a new $1,000 to cover this. He did it for me twice. Well, more than that, but two very specific experiences where I asked for the same thing. I'd like a new $1,000 to cover this. You can do that too. If you did it for Trav, he'll do it for you. That's available to anybody. Just ask him. It's how our steward thinks. Here's the other thing about a steward. Here's kind of like one of my main punchlines I wanted to get across in this video was a steward doesn't stress when the bank accounts are low. Steward doesn't lose sleep over money. Steward doesn't freak out, doesn't play the what if game, doesn't allow his head to get filled with doubt and unbelief. No, because he knows his master is fully supplied, his master's rich, his master's wealthy, the person he works for is rich and wealthy. All he has to do is go put in a request to get those accounts filled back up. That's all you gotta do. Proverbs 3, verse 9 says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the best part of everything you produce. Then he will fill your barns with grain. Another translation says, fill your barns with plenty. Honor the Lord with your wealth and the first and best of everything you produce. Again, another translation says, with your income. Then he will fill your storage places with plenty. He will store it. He will fill your storage places. The pressure's off you, it's on him. If you feel the pressure, you've made yourself the source. I'm not saying you don't work. I'm not saying you sit back on the couch and money just comes to you. No, you go work. You're on assignment. You get your instruction, get your marching orders. But he brings the increase. We sow seed. We're tithers. We're out there. We're working. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing. We're putting our hand to something so it can prosper. We're getting after it. And while we're doing that, the blessing on their lives is just making us rich. Proverbs 10:22. The blessing makes a person rich, and he adds no sorrow with it. Another translation, the blessing of the Lord brings wealth without painful toil for it. So we're working, but on the inside, we're at peace. We're resting. We're knowing that that blessing's working. We're knowing that God's got us. We're knowing that we're his stewards, that we're working for him. He's supplying us. He's funding us. Man, we ask him for the increase. He brings the increase. Guys, it's just a great way to live. It really is. It's a ton of fun, and you can enjoy your time, and you're not losing sleep at night, and you're not worrying about money, and you're not fighting with your spouse about it or anything like that, because God's the source. It's easy to give because you're giving out of his checkbook. It's easy to tithe because he's the supplier. He gave you that job. He gave you the energy to work. You might, like I said, you might be saying, Trav, but I work 60 hours a week for that. I work hard for that. That's my money. Who gave you the energy? Who gave you the health? Who gave you the time? Who gave you the drive? Who gave you the motivation? Who gave you the ambition? Who gave you the car to get there? Who set all this thing up? Who set the whole thing up? God did. You haven't been giving them the credit. You've given yourself the credit. That's why it's hard to give. That's why it's hard to tithe. That's why you want to fight me on it. But let's operate as stewards so that we can walk in the fullness of the blessing. So we can walk in all that God has for us. And we can live an amazing life financially, but in all areas. That's what this channel is not just about money, it's about everything. It's about the increased life. And this is a key. Man, the steward doesn't stress when the bank accounts are low. I remember I have a marketing bank account that I pay for Instagram ads, Facebook advertising, YouTube ads, and stuff like that out of. And I remember there was a time, pretty recent, I'd say maybe 6 months ago, maybe 8, and that marketing budget bank account went lower. You know, we all kind of have this mental threshold, like if it's under a certain number, you kind of like, ugh. Well, it went under that number. And I remember checking my account, I looked at it, and I just said, oh, that's not my problem. And I closed out of it. I had a peace, I had a smile on my face, and I kind of forgot about it. Oh, that's not my problem. That's God's problem. He's my source and supply. Next thing you know, that bank account had a little more money in it. Next thing you know, had a little bit more than that. And a little bit more than that. And then a little bit more than that. When I checked it again, 4, 5, 6 days later, it was back up and had plenty in it. I'm a steward. My job isn't to supply the accounts and fill them. My job is to manage, delegate, and increase what God's given me. His job is to supply them. He fills your barns with grain. It's a great way to live. I love you guys. I hope this helped you today. Work on that today. I mean, you've got to confess it. I'm a steward of God's money. I'm not the source. God's the source. God, you're my source. I'm your steward. What's your instructions? Hop back into Matthew 25. Reread the parable of the talents. Reread Malachi 3, 10, 11, and 12. Hop in Proverbs 3, 9, and 10. Get the stuff back in you if you haven't done it in a while. You got to see yourself as God sees you. See yourself this way. I'm a steward. He supplies. He flows it to me so he can get it through me. It's a great way to live. I love you guys. Again, if you're new to the channel, financialincrease101.com. If you want to go deeper and you want to learn the step-by-step processes to getting out of debt, to getting out of the budgeted life and living a true life of increase in every area, you can go to kingdommoneymastery.com. I've got links in the description below for your next steps. It's going to help you. It's going to bless you. Let's stop living a life of average. Let's start living a life of increase. Psalms 115:14 says, may the Lord your God increase you more and more, you and your children. That's my prayer for you today. I love you. I'll see you on the next one.